Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of this F1 25 Joshua Pearce career mode. This is part 16 of the series. If you did miss the last episode, Lando Norris stole victory away from Max Verstappen at his home Grand Prix and claimed some points back in the World Championship. It's a very welcome podium for ourselves, but the damage that was sustained while battling Max Verstappen after a very late safety car ended up sealing our fate for a P3. The front wing damage was a bit too much and we only just held on for that third position. Max Verstappen's lead at the top of the World Drivers' Championship shrinks now down to 86 points ahead of Lando Norris. Then we move into third, 74 points behind Lando. Our teammate Sonny Hayes is in ninth, 70 points behind George Russell, and Red Bull, they lead the Constructors' Championship by 92 points to McLaren. Ferrari sit third, they're 191 points behind with Apex GP. We're currently sitting fourth, 65 points behind Ferrari. And we're going to jump straight into a chassis development here, and it's going to be a major weight reduction by getting a whole new engine cover, and this should also jump our chassis vehicle comparison all the way to the top if it comes in, and it will be rushed with a low failure rate, and I hope that it can make it in before Azerbaijan, which will hopefully give us some good speed. We got a couple of new developments on the car for this weekend, and the major one is the DRS slot gap size, which should, around of all places, the Temple of Speed, increase our top speed and aid this upgrade. We'll also have a new intercooler to try and keep the engine temperatures down, as in Monza during this time of the year it is generally pretty hot, so hopefully this will come in pretty handy. And this is also something we don't see very often, and that's a possible thunderstorm during the Grand Prix. Monza's, as I just said, very well known for its hotter temperatures all weekend. This time around is looking very, very overcast, and those thunderstorms, I'm sure, is going to cause a bit of havoc in the Grand Prix. Not very often. I actually can't remember off the top of my head the last time we saw wet weather driving around the Temple of Speed, but going into this race weekend, we extend our performance advantage over the field as McLaren don't bring any upgrades this weekend. Mercedes and Red Bull on essentially identical performance, and shockingly, Ferrari only bring a minor upgrade to their home Grand Prix. The bottom five closes up to Aston Martin, with them not bringing any upgrades, and the Racing Bulls are still the slowest car in the grid as we now jump straight into qualifying.
They call it the Temple of Speed, and the pilgrims have come to worship. It's all about the speed today. Qualifying awaits us. Welcome to Monza for the Italian Grand Prix.
And for this qualifying session here in Italy, we're going to be running a little bit different to what we normally do. We saw the weather radar with all of that rain on the way in the Grand Prix, so we're going to be running a couple of degrees of wing angle. Usually, you would go for 0-0 around the Temple of Speed, but we're going to chuck on a couple of degrees to give us a bit of downforce during the Grand Prix. But that is going to throw a curveball into our race, and we get a 5-place grid penalty as well. What is going on? He just parked it on the exit while I was on a hot lap, and I get the penalty. What is Leclerc doing? My God. And so now that's going to put us behind in the rest of our Q1 here. So we'll finish our first lap, and that goes into P9, which is not too bad. And now onto the same set of tyres. It's a purple first sector, so we've done pretty well in the first. It's a green middle, sorry, a personal best middle, but we'll only just improve and we'll maintain that P9 position, and by the end of the session it's Norris fastest by 10th to our teammate, so at least our teammate is showing good pace. Piastri's in third, 3/10 behind, ended up P10 for ourselves, 1.4 seconds behind, and knockdown qualifying one is Pierre Gasly by 0.02 of a second to his teammate Jack Doohan, who just sneaks through. Oliver Behrman, Isaac Hadjar, Esteban Ocon makes it both the Hazzards out, and then the two Astons of Stroll ahead of Fernando Alonso, and then back on board with ourselves. It's the end of our first flying lap here in the second part of qualifying, and we're going to cross the line and we go P6, a 10th behind, which is not too shabby, and we'll go around for another lap because I wasn't feeling too safe as we ended up getting bumped down to P10. We'll find about half a second on another set of tyres, and they'll put us into a much more comfortable P7, which kind of gives us a little bit of better understanding for Q3. Max Verstappen finds himself fastest at the end of this one by a 10th of a second to George Russell. Leclerc's in third, only 5 thousandths behind Russell. Our teammate once again showing pace in fourth, 2/10 behind. We ended up 3/10 behind in seventh and knocked out in qualifying twos. Liam Lawson by a 10th of a second. Kimi Antonelli, Jack Doohan, Oscar Piastri in the McLaren, who hasn't made it through. Nico Hulkenberg and Lewis Hamilton for his first Italian Grand Prix for Ferrari is out in the second part of qualifying. And in the end, after having to do those extra runs with the Leclerc incident, we've only got the one set of tyres to use in this final part of qualifying. So we're going to end up doing the one lap, and that will find us in P6, but outside of the top 10 once our penalty gets applied. And it's our teammate on pole position by 700ths of a second. Sonny Hayes gets himself his first pole position for Apex GP ahead of George Russell on the front row of the grid. Max Verstappen, he's down in P8.
Welcome to the home of the Parabolica, now known as the Curva Alboreto, in tribute to the Italian motorsport legend Michele Alboreto. It's a long right-hander. It dares you to keep your foot as far down on the throttle as you possibly can. It's one of the great corners on the calendar, and we're here at Monza, ahead of the Italian Grand Prix. With the rain coming down here at the 3.6-mile Monza circuit, the low drag setups preferred by most teams could cause them some problems in today's Grand Prix. So watch out for cars struggling for grip around the Curva Michele Alboreto. That's the Parabolica to you and me, the last and most demanding of this track's 11 corners. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Sonny Hayes lines up on pole position, just ahead of George Russell, who starts this event from P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Tsunoda, Lando Norris and Albon, Verstappen, Bortoletto, Sainz and Liam Lawson, Pearce, Antonelli, Jack Doohan and Piastri, Hulkenberg, Hamilton, Pierre Gasly and Ollie Behrman, Hadjar, Ocon, Stroll and Fernando Alonso rounds off the grid. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? And alongside me in the commentary box today, a man who I always look up to, which is easier said than done, Anthony Davidson. So here we are at Monza, Temple of Speed, lovely long straights, and that's it. It's easy, isn't it?
It's a little bit harder than that, Crofty, than you make out. I mean, yes, you do have those long straights, but it's linked by very tight, tricky corners. Big emphasis on braking zones around here as well, particularly into turn one. You decelerate at the 150-metre board down to the 50-metre board, and you'll scrub off easily over 150 miles an hour. So yeah, it puts a lot of G-force on the drivers' bodies as they decelerate, and obviously it throws up a big overtaking opportunity as well come race day.
Radio check, please. Radio check. So, mate, you bagged the podium last race, and I, for one, really enjoyed it. I know you did, so let's see if we have more of that today, please.
So here we are. For the first time I reckoned I've ever experienced myself, it's a wet Italian Grand Prix. For our strategy, we're going to stick with the default strategy by doing a one-stop and staying on the intermediates for the entirety of the Grand Prix. As now we line up for this Italian Grand Prix here in Season 1. It's 5 red lights, and we're away. It's going to be a very easy start for ourselves. Not very much throttle application to get us off the line. We looked to the outside of Carlos Sainz, nearly actually going into the grass, and we swerved around him so violently. And now constantly locking up the fronts there, modulating the brake pedal to try and not cause any tyre wear, trying to see how far we can make these tyres go. In the end, we're going to be drag racing against Bortoletto around the outside of turn 2, and it's not going to work out for ourselves, so we're just going to tuck in behind as now we head into the next lot of chicanes, and we're going to just stay behind him because I don't want to be taking any risks, because around this place, aero is so important, and if we break a front wing, if we just do anything to this car, this could possibly be the end of our Grand Prix, or we'll have to come in because this car is going to be very sensitive, especially around in these conditions. And the field's going to be much more closer together. They're going to be much more equally matched as we do get ourselves around Bortoletto. But now, fast forwarding just a little bit towards the Parabolica, we're going to get sent on by Carlos Sainz, and it kind of spooks me. And I miss my braking point, run a little bit wide, and then Sainz, who ended up not even making the dive bomb, he ends up getting the position just by distracting me and making me run wide. And as Mark is just about saying, we're inside the top 10, so we have made progress off of this start. We find ourselves attacking for P8, but in the end, we're going to back out of it because Bortoletto is on a mission. He goes around the outside of both myself and Sainz. A little bit of contact there with Sainz, as it's a very awkward through turn 2 at the minute. But Bortoletto, what a very opportunistic move. He saw myself and Sainz battling. He saw a door wide open, and he put his Sauber through that door and gets himself now up into P8. So we'll continue our battle with Carlos Sainz, but now it's no longer for that 8th position. It's for P9, and we do take that away from Carlos Sainz. That's us up into 9th now. That's 2 positions gained since the start of this Grand Prix. Up ahead, though, you can see Tsunoda has now found himself up into 3rd, Leclerc's in 4th, Norris is in 5th. Max Verstappen's made up a couple of positions. He now finds himself into P6, but behind him, Alex Albon is looking to try and get by him. Will he go around the outside? He can through the Ascari chicane, and that is him now up into P6. And now back to the front, we've got ourselves our battle on the hands. Our teammate, Sonny Hayes, he's actually checked out. He's 1.5 seconds ahead, and then it's 2 seconds back from Russell to find Yuki Tsunoda, who's currently in a battle with Charles Leclerc. Leclerc, could he get himself on the podium for Ferrari? Yes, he can. He gets himself ahead of the Red Bull. The Red Bull now, possibly now under threat from Lando Norris in the McLaren. He's using this opportunity to try and claw back any championship points that he can. He is currently ahead of Max Verstappen on the road, and that means a net gain in championship position. And he's going to try and take that to the next level to get by his teammate. And that's Yuki Tsunoda in the Red Bull going by. And that is Norris now up into 4th position and trying to chase down Charles Leclerc. But Leclerc is looking very, very racy as he's now onto that podium. Tsunoda, though, he's not going to let Norris go by too easily. He now looks to the outside at the Parabolica. And is he going to be able to get the move done? It's a very like back and forth. They're kind of edging in front of each other, and in the end it is Norris who does get the slipstream, and he's going to fly back by Yuki Tsunoda. So this battle is by no means over yet. They go side by side now into turn 1. Generally, you would think now Lando Norris is going to get the better exit with that dry line starting to appear, less water to disperse, which means more rubber onto the tarmac, and that is exactly what is going to happen. Norris now definitely ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. He gets the move completely done. Behind, though, the other Red Bull of Max Verstappen wants to get himself back by Alex Albon, and he pulls off pretty much the exact same move that Albon performed on him to get that P7 away. We get our first objective now, and that actually kind of spooked me a little bit because I'm completely missing my braking zone. These conditions are, you miss your braking zone by a little bit, it's so much harder to recover. But our first objective is to stay ahead of Kimi Antonelli. We know that if we get passed by Antonelli, there's probably going to be a freight train behind him of cars trying to get by us as well. We're really, really struggling in these conditions. We kind of made up those first couple of positions at the start of the Grand Prix, and we haven't been able to make any progress. We can get right up to the back of Gabriel Bortoleto, but we just cannot get by him. Whatever I try, I can't get by him. He's just so good on the exits, and that is really the only place I can try and get him, which is on the exits, because after that, I'm too far back to try and get him mid-corner into a braking zone. So, Bortoleto doing really, really well in that Sauber to keep me at bay as the 2 Red Bulls were battling along as I was explaining all of that. George Russell now, he is slowly getting that gap back down to Hayes, but the gap is 2.3 seconds as he's now gone for a spin at the chicane, and that's a very, very fast place to have a spin. And George Russell looks pretty much beached now on the apex there of the final part of the Ascari chicane, and that is enough to bring out a red flag here in Italy. And this could benefit us because based off the last standing start that we had, we gained a couple of positions. So could we possibly try and use this to get ourselves a few more positions? So looking back, though, to see what happened to George Russell, and it's a puncture so early on into the Grand Prix to be getting a puncture. So I wonder if maybe he drove over a little bit of debris or something, which caused a slow leak. But in the end, he's gone for a spin. But luckily, there's a red flag, so he should be able to rejoin the Grand Prix. And with this delay in proceedings, the heavy rain has now arrived. The thunderstorms are now very near, with the game actually telling us that the wet tyres are the ones to be on. But we still need to do a stop towards the end of the Grand Prix to make these wets go the distance as we go. Again, it's take 2 for the Italian Grand Prix. As I predicted, it's such a good start for ourselves. We're now up into P7, so that is a net 2 positions gained. We're so careful not to make a mistake, but we've made a mistake anyways. We've gone into the back of Alex Albon, and I was saying earlier in the Grand Prix that we just cannot make mistakes that cause us damage, or because with a field a bit more bunched up in these wet conditions, the wet conditions pretty much eliminate a lot of the performance performance in the cars. It's much more of a driver situation. So now with that damage, we could be very vulnerable to none other Max Verstappen tucked up behind us, but is still so far a net 2 positions gained through this red flag. George Russell, who brought out the red flag also, he's currently sitting P5, so he's come out of this not too shabby, only losing a couple of positions. Could have been so much more if that red flag didn't come out. Max Verstappen, though, he is attacking us, but we're going to successfully defend from him, and that is us now into, actually maintaining that P7. He will have to stay put into P8. Going on to the next lap, though, you can see we're losing touch. We're now 3 seconds behind Alex Albon, so we're definitely the cork in the bottle at the moment of this train. Verstappen, though, he saw that he couldn't make the move up the inside last time around, so this time he goes to the outside, and the move sticks. Hamilton behind us, he's got himself ahead of Gabriel Bortoleto, as they'll actually continue to go side by side. Which one of those will come out on top based off the mini-map? It looks like Bortoleto's managed to maintain that P9. We're now adjusting our strategy to change the front wing for when we do come in for our pit stop. To go onto another set of wet tyres. We get another objective of the Grand Prix. It's absolutely all kicking off at the moment, and we need to avoid damaging the front wing, which is absolutely necessary for us to do, because we, cannot afford any more damage. You can already see how far back we're falling. Max Verstappen only got by us at turn 1, and he's already 1.5 seconds through, and we're only halfway through the lap, so we're 100% super slow at the moment with this damage. There's a yellow flag behind us at the moment, and it looks like it's actually not going away. We'll have to see what's going to go on with the yellow flag that's currently behind us. It looks like one of the Saubers may have dropped off, and it is Nico Hulkenberg that has fallen out of the race, and that's going to bring out another red flag. So 2 red flags in a very quick succession. It's only lap 12, and this is our second red flag of the Grand Prix. And this time around, it wants us to stay on the wet tyres, so a new set of wet tyres, and this time we will be going to the end unless the conditions change, and the thunderstorm is now here. So this could get very juicy, as it is now take 3 here in Italy, and it's 5 red lights, and we're away for the 3rd time today, and it is going to be another brilliant start for ourselves. Could we get ourselves even further up the grid so far than what we have so far? All of our positions gained during the start of Grand Prix. Our teammate Sonny Hayes maintains his lead here in Italy. Leclerc now finds himself up into P2. Lando Norris is in 3rd, Tsunoda's in 4th. We are currently battling to try and maintain our P7 that we ended up having, and we do maintain that 7th position, but behind us is Alex Albon versus Gabriel Bortoleto. So Bortoleto is definitely holding his own in the Sauber at the moment. I mentioned before that the rain kind of takes away the driver, well, it actually adds more driver into the car than it does the car performance, and definitely proven at the moment with Bortoleto up in 8th, actually managing to successfully battle himself with myself, as we are the fastest car on the grid. And also the Williams is not too shabby of the car. I say that as he gets passed by Lewis Hamilton. So Hamilton now well and truly into the points after starting down in P16. He's taken advantage of these red flags, and he could find himself now looking to try and get himself even further up inside the top 10, but he's got 2 seconds to get himself to Gabriel Bortoleto in P8. Antonelli now gets himself inside the points, dispatching the McLaren of Oscar Piastri. George Russell now, he is on a charge. He got very lucky with that red flag, and he is still going to maintain that P5. He had a look down the inside on Yuki Tsunoda, but it wasn't to be this time around. Oscar Piastri, he knows for the constructors, they need both McLarens inside the points to try and catch up to Red Bull. McLaren currently sit P3 and now P10, Red Bull P4, P6, so it's still a net gain for Red Bull at the moment, but is Piastri going to be able to stay inside the points? And Verstappen's trying to make that an even bigger gain for Red Bull to get himself ahead of George Russell. He can't do it, but Piastri now defends from Kimi Antonelli, and it looks like Antonelli might actually get this position away, but is Piastri going to be able to get the better traction? It looks like he does end up getting the better traction, and Piastri will hold on to that P10 and stay within the points. On board with ourselves, so we've got our next objective, which is to drain the ERS. We've been kind of banking it up because I've been deploying so much of it down the straights. I can kind of hold up Bortoleto through this middle part of the circuit, but down the straights I need to be deploying a lot of battery, and we need to, deploy a bit more, as now Oliver Bamman's looking to get himself past Isaac Hadjo. He can't do it, but that's not rain mist coming off the tyres. That is a lot a lot of smoke coming out the back of that Haas, and that is Oliver Behrman pulling off to the side of the road, and there is the confirmation. Behrman is out, and that is going to deploy a safety car. So 2 red flags and a safety car within the first 16 laps of this Grand Prix. It has been absolutely mental. No time to get into some sort of groove at all so far in this Grand Prix. And we're going to do a bit of an order check now that the field has been neutralised, and it's going to be our teammate leading the way ahead of Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris rounding out the podium. Then it's Yuki Tsunoda, George Russell, Max Verstappen in 6th position. Ourselves find ourselves in 7th. Gabriel Bortoletto, Lewis Hamilton on the recovery drive now up into P9, and Oscar Piastri rounds out the points. Then you find Kimi Antonelli, Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, the only Haas left in this Grand Prix, Liam Lawson, Carlos Sainz, Jack Doohan, Isaac Hadjar, Lance Stroll ahead of his teammate Fernando Alonso, and Alex Albon currently sits in last, sitting 20th position as we get prepared for the green flag to drop. And we are away once again, but we get such a good run that we actually have to hold off passing Max Verstappen, or else we would have done it before the control line, which would have been a penalty or at least a illegal overtake. So we'll now send it down the inside, and we actually lift off the brakes because we realise that George Russell has kind of been pinched up behind Yuki Tsunoda, having to slow down a little bit more than he needed to. So we've used that opportunity to get ourselves now up into 5th position. And I am, with this damage that we've currently got, I reckon 5th is going to be about where we're going to have to stay. We've already lost 2.5 seconds to Yuki Tsunoda, and behind us, Verstappen, he is desperate to try and get himself ahead because he knows he's going to be well and truly faster, but he's made contact with the side of our car, and look at the damage. It is gone like a really deep orange color, so that is going to be terrible damage now. So not only have we got the front wing damage, we've now got a side pod and underfloor damage. So this is just going to make this car feel like an absolute pig. And just to make things worse, I've clobbered all over the curbs, and it's now gone red. It's now gone red. So we are we cooked? Are we cooked now? Because I've now got a car that feels nearly undrivable, and now Mark wants me to try and burn as much fuel as possible. Mark, it's not my fault that we've had 2 red flags and a safety car, so of course I'm going to be having quite a lot of fuel on board myself at the moment. Lewis Hamilton has just got himself now up into P7. This recovery drive is going absolutely brilliantly for the man in his first Italian Grand Prix in the red suit. But what is our teammate doing? He's pitting from the lead of the Grand Prix with 5 laps to go. What is happening? Our teammate, has he just thrown away the race win, or is something in the picture much bigger? Because this could be an absolute genius strategy play if it really is about to start drying up, because he could be absolutely miles faster, but I feel like with only 5 laps to go, you would have wanted to try and stick it out on the wet tyres to the end and just try and hold on to that lead. He was by far the quickest car out there today. By far the quickest car. Max Verstappen may have the fastest lap, but Sonny Hayes was able to just pull away from whoever was behind him, and he was currently doing that. So I think pitting is going to be not the greatest idea from the Apex GP crew down on the pit wall. But for ourselves, we're focused on our battle with Max Verstappen. We successfully defend from him going into that chicane. But you'll also now notice that Lewis Hamilton, he's well and truly in this train. So I am definitely the cork in the bottle here, holding up absolutely everyone. And I am just, deploying all the battery I can use down the straights, trying to make sure that our straight line speed is pretty much as good as we can possibly do. And you can see there just how much understeer and then oversteer that we've got. So we're struggling. This car is so heavily wounded, and Lewis Hamilton looks like he could possibly take that position away from Verstappen, and he does. Verstappen does not put up a fight, and Hamilton now goes up into 5th position. So that is now 11 positions gained for Lewis Hamilton as we cross the line, and we're going to fail our objective to burn the fuel load. And I honestly wasn't expecting to be able to get that. I generally don't burn a lot of fuel in the wet, and it's just a case of, we've had a lot of stoppages and delays for us to now have so much fuel on board as our teammate actually sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Our tyres though, our tyre wear icon right at the end of that clip there actually turned on there and is now quite a bad orange colour. So the tyres are definitely worn, so maybe our teammate was onto something by coming in and putting on the intermediates. A bit of a safer bet maybe, knowing that the tyre wear is going to be really high and that he could really just put in qualifying laps on those intermediate tyres. He find himself at the moment down in P17. Liam Lawson, look at the rear of the car go. He's definitely got some tyre wear, and he's actually overcorrected and put it into the fence. And that is Liam Lawson gone in this Grand Prix. Let's take a look on board with what's happened there. I reckon this is generally just some tyre wear, because you can see the Alpine in front of him also get a little bit taily, but he is that just inexperience, maybe just overcorrecting the car there? And that's actually a little bit scary there with how close some of the cars were on the exit of this Ascari chicane. On board with Carlos Sainz here. Let's see what the view was like. He had a racing bull perpendicular to the track right in front of him, and that would have been a scary, scary sight to see. Back on board with ourselves, though, on the final lap of the Grand Prix. Our tyre wear is up to 79% on the rear left. Charles Leclerc has crossed the line to win the Italian Grand Prix. And for ourselves, we're battling with the other Ferrari. Hamilton looking to go to our outside. A little bit of contact through the braking zone. He's going to get the better exit. We've got it all crossed up as well, right behind him, but we're deploying the battery. Did we get it? Did we get it? No. No, the steering wheel says it was 5th position. How close was that? Oh, that is so close.
Charles Leclerc, what a drive, what a victory, he wins!
To do it as a team on home soil, that really means something special, and you can see how much it means to them, the drivers involved as well. Great job by them today, of course, as always, but for the fans watching on too, a great display of teamwork here today.
It's what they've all been racing towards, waiting for them. High above the pit lane is our podium. And for the lucky 3, it's time to stand on it. And who gets to take the top step of the podium? Yes, it is I, Leclerc, Charles Leclerc on top.
So there we have it. Charles Leclerc has won the Italian Grand Prix once again. He won it a few years ago in 2019. He then won it again in 2024, and now here in 2025 he has won once again with Yuki Tsunoda and Lando Norris up on the podium. And for ourselves, it was a decent recovery from outside the points, but that critical floor damage we received in the final stint for sure put a halt to any further progress, and it was a case of survival from that point. The rest of the top 10, Lewis Hamilton with a fantastic recovery drive as well from 16th on the grid. Myself, according to the time behind the leader, we actually crossed the line at the exact same time as Lewis Hamilton, so a dead heat. Max Verstappen, George Russell, Oscar Piastri, Gabriel Bortoleto, and Pierre Gasly rounds out the points with our teammate in P16. Very disappointing considering he started on the pole position and was leading for a good portion of the race, but maybe they thought they couldn't get to the end on the wets. It just made me think that one more lap and those tyres would have exploded. Nico Hulkenberg and Behrman non-finishers, with Liam Lawson's DNF so close to the end. He's actually classified as 2 laps down. Max Verstappen leads the Drivers' Championship by 76 points to Lando Norris. Myself in 3rd, 82 points behind. Our teammate Sonny Hayes is in 9th, 76 points behind George Russell. And Red Bull lead the Constructors' Championship by 93 points to McLaren. Ferrari in 3rd, 177 points behind. And Apex GP, we line up in 4th, 92 points behind Ferrari. And our driver rating rivalry against Pierre Gasly, and we are currently in a tie with him as we need to get to driver rating 88 to win. And speaking of driver ratings, our experience and awareness gain points with Racecraft to level 84. Our pace and focus have lost some points, and we go to an overall of level 86. And our driver recognition has now climbed to 59% against Sonny Hayes, so that recovery drive is being rewarded with a lot more recognition from the team. And if you did enjoy that episode, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next episode where we hit the streets of Baku for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. I'll see you then.